Rowe. Bagley. Harding.
Here.
Hug.
Here.
Johnson. Mr. President.
Yeah, it is. Please stand for the pledge and remarks by Councilmember Rowe.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Play ball.
Go ahead and have a seat. This last weekend, the church that Marcy and I attend embarked on a 14-day period of continuous prayer. There's so much trouble going on in the world today, and we just want to do what we can to meet the needs of our Trendwood neighborhood, the city of Omaha, and even across international borders. My first shift was last night, and part of my time was spent reading scripture, and I turned to for whatever reason, I turned to a passage in Proverbs chapter 6. I think it was because it was the 6th day of the month. Not really sure. But the author recorded that there are 7 things that are detestable to God, and I wanted to share those 7 things. Haughty eyes. Now, that's not a regular word in my vocabulary, so I looked that up. But it's a person having a proud spirit or someone that thinks a little bit too highly of themselves. A lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked schemes. Number 5, feet that are quick to rush to evil, a false witness who pours out lies. And finally, a person who stirs up conflict in the community. I'll confess I've fallen short on several of these, as I know we all have. I suspect that many of the troubles in the world are a result of us living out these 7 things. I want to move toward living my life with faith, hope, and love. I think we'll find better results.
Thank you.
An affidavit of publication is on file for the pre-council and city council meeting, and a current copy of the Open Meeting Act is posted in a white binder in the east wall of legislative chambers.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Omaha City Council. We appreciate having you here this afternoon. We look forward to hearing your testimony on our many items. I would encourage you to turn your cell phones off or at least to vibrate.
Item 6, to consider a Class CG liquor license for Cunningham's Pub and Grill located at 3814 Farnham Street.
Public hearing and vote on number 6 is today. Proponents, please.
Good afternoon, Mr. President and members of the council. David Houghton, 2804 South 87th Ave, appearing on behalf of the applicant. This will be the second Cunningham's location in Omaha. This location will be located in the Blackstone district. I'm happy to take any questions if you have any. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other proponents? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Mr. Bagley.
Thanks, Mr. President. David, can you come back down, please? Good afternoon. Thanks for coming down today. Cunningham's Pub. So I used to live next door to Derek over the years. I was hoping he'd be here today. Derek Richards. And I know he used to be on 120th off of Blondo, and then they moved to Old Mill. And I was thrilled to see that they're moving up to Blackstone now. Are they going to still have the same grill and food that they have in Old Mill up in Blackstone?
To the best of my knowledge, it'll be the same menu, but I haven't consulted with our client about the menu.
The most important thing you need to ask your client on behalf of their council member that I checked the menu out and it looks great, but there would be a request if they could get Smittix on tap up there. That would be a great thing for the neighborhood. I know they got a great menu of food. They used to have prime rib up there years ago, and they got great wings, and the food is second to none. So I'm really thrilled that they're coming to Blackstone, and I do hope they get Smittix on tap because they got a great beer menu and food. So pass along my best to the Richards family, and I look forward to visiting them up in Blackstone when they open up. Do they have a target date when they're going to open?
I believe that they are slated for January, but I'd have to check on the date.
Okay. I'll make a motion to support this, Mr. President. And Derek, just for the record, let the Richards family know, Smittix is a red Irish ale. So it's a little lighter than Guinness. It's on the menu. So again, I wish them the best of luck, and I'll look to support them, and I'll make a motion to support this today. Thanks, Mr. President.
Motion and a second to approve. Ms. Melton?
Yeah, and I just wanted to say, I was really happy that you said this is going to be the second location and that they're not closing the old mill location, because that's the one that I love to go to.
Me
So
too.
this is going to be a second one, right?
I believe so, yes.
Perfect. Now, I wish him the best.
Thanks, council member.
Thank you.
Thank you. No further lights. Roll call.
Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0. Item 7, to consider a Class I liquor license for the Fowling Warehouse Omaha located at 5585 North 90th Street. A is communication from the Planning Department regarding permits for the outdoor area.
Public hearing and vote on number 7 is today. Proponents, please.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, members of the council. Dave Houghton, 2804 South 87th, appearing on behalf of the appellant. This is a new concept, Fowling, that will be an entertainment. Fowling is a football and bowling concept. They'll be serving drinks, and they would like to do corporate events, and we think it's a great addition to that North 90th Street corridor by Maple. I'd be happy to take any questions if the council has any.
Thank you. Any other proponents? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Council members, I think this is on my side of 90th Street between Councilmember Melton, and I certainly support this application today.
I'll move the approval.
Motion and a second. Roll call.
Melton.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, wait, I need to move subject to permits.
Is it same second? Second. Yep. Thank you. Roll call.
Melton.
Oh, did you have a remark on that?
Council members, if I may, I think we need to stipulate that a building permit, we're working on that, an approval for the liquor application. I wanted to make that point before.
And that's,
You got
when I move to approve, subject to permits, that's perfect. So you're doing what you need to do, and this covers that.
I appreciate that, council member.
No problem.
Thank you. There was a motion and a second to approve subject to permits. Roll call.
Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0. Item 8, to consider a liquor license addition application for Mega Saver located at 9516 Calhoun Road to add an addition known as 9518 Calhoun Road.
Public hearing and vote on number 8 is today. We have the applicant by Zoom, Ms. Kalikova. We'll get you off mute here in a second. Okay, try that.
Good afternoon.
Good
Can you hear
afternoon.
me?
Yep.
Good afternoon. My name is Lola Khalikova, here to represent CFGA LLC, doing business as Mega Saver at 9516 Calhoun Road. We're here asking for, requesting for addition to the existing premises for the liquor license on, again, 9516 Calhoun Road.
Okay.
I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents in the audience? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed.
Move the approval.
There's a motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 9, a resolution to approve the preliminary plat for Smoky Ridge 2, located at 13111 North 72nd Street. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
Public hearing and vote on number 9 is today. Proponents, please.
Good afternoon, Elizabeth Hunter with Snyder and Associates at 11850 Nicholas here in Omaha. And I am the engineer for this project with Jim Smith, and here to answer any questions if there are any about it.
Thank you. Any other proponents? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0. Items 10 and 11 can be considered together for the Oaks Replat 3, located at 12656 Weir Street. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval. Item 10, an ordinance to rezone this property from R6 District to R7 District. Item 11, a resolution to approve the final plat.
Public hearing and vote on items 10 and 11 are today. Proponents, please.
Good afternoon, Darren Smith, Arch Icon Development, developer and owner, 509 Walker Street, Woodbine, Iowa, 51579. Here to answer any questions you might have about the development.
Thank you. Other proponents?
Joe Detlos with Thompson, Dreesen, and Dorner, 10836 Old Mill Road. Here to answer any engineering questions as well.
Thank you. Any other proponents on these items? See none. Any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Melton. Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thanks.
Items 12 through 16 can be considered together for area at Blue Sage, located southwest of 204th Street and Blue Sage Parkway. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval. Items 12 and 13, ordinances to rezone this property from AG District to DR District and R6 District. Item 14, an ordinance to amend the boundaries of the NCE Overlay District to incorporate this property into that district. Item 15, a resolution to approve the final plat. Item 16, a resolution to approve the subdivision agreement.
Public hearing and votes on items 12 through 16 are today. Proponents, please.
Yes, Mr. President. Start over. Mr. President, members of the council, Larry Jobin, 11440 West Center Road, appearing on behalf of the applicant. With me today is Kalahasi V&A Consulting, the consulting engineers on this particular project. We went through this project in pretty good detail on the preliminary plat with respect to the platting, the zoning, and the overall site plan. So I'm here to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Any other proponents? Seeing none. Any opponents? Public hearing is closed. There's a motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Melton. Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0. Item 17, a resolution to approve the Curtis Corner Tax Increment Financing Redevelopment Project Plan located southwest of Curtis and North 49th Avenues in an amount up to $551,017.
Public hearing and vote on number 17 is today. Proponents, please.
Yeah, good afternoon, Don Seaton, Omaha City Planning. This is an infill project, North Omaha neighborhood, located at Curtis and 49th Avenues, just above the Sorensen Parkway. We're looking at 9 vacant single-family lots and construction of 9 homes. This is a project of $2.7 million investment into the neighborhood. They're asking for $551,017 in TIF support. These homes will be built for about $275,000 each. They're going to sell for $225,000. It's a need for TIF and the assistance of the Spark Gap financing program. Developer is Philip McLean of the Mensch Group. This project meets our master plan goals. We ask for your approval.
Thank you. Other proponents?
Good afternoon, council members. Mr. President, Bob Griffith, 11440 West Center Road. Here on behalf of the applicant, Phil McLean with the Mensch Group. With me as well is Jake Starnes of Sunback Home. They are the builder on this project. Thanks, Don, for presenting. Great. I appreciate your work with us as always. As Don mentioned, this is an exciting project, something a little unique in North Omaha. There's detached single-family homes, which isn't something we see very often. With the capital stack that we're looking at and the difficulty with construction costs and getting construction funding, Spark Capital Financing is integral, as Don mentioned, as well as this TIF. So that kind of fills that gap between the cost to build the home and what we're looking to sell it for. I think also important to note that we're partnering with Habitat for Humanity with this particular project. They have a list of pre-qualified home applicants, and so we're going to use those lists of potential buyers to help fill that need. I know Mr. McLean, he's I think hustling down here right now. He had something come up and he really wants to be here. So if he's here in time, we can ask him some questions. But he is a graduate of what's called the Spark Development Academy. It's a nonprofit here in Omaha to help work with people of color and other less represented individuals in the development community. And so he's worked to come up through that organization and kind of surrounded himself with people who have the experience, and he's had the initiative to go ahead and make this his first project. So we're really excited about it. Jake and myself are here to answer questions, and Phil, if he's able to make it as well. So we appreciate your consideration.
Thank you. Any other proponents today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed. Ms. Johnson, you're recognized.
Yes, Mr. McLean.
We were just talking about you.
You're in the hot seat.
I'm up. Sorry for being late. What am I? Do I introduce myself right now?
Yes,
All right,
and your address, please.
My name is Philip McLean. I live 4906 Davenport Street, Omaha, Nebraska 68132. And I'm the developer for this project. I started my company in September of last year after finishing Sparks Developers Academy. My partner Jake and his boss Melvin, I met them and we decided to buy this lot on 49th and Curtis. And we worked with Spark on finding funding, and we also reached out to the city about finding some funding to make this work. As you know, affordable housing is a big issue in Omaha, also infill development. So with this being my first project, I wanted to do something that gave back to the community, but also to help with the rising housing issues in Omaha. So as part of this project, I'm working with City Councilwoman Johnson on hiring some young kids in the community to learn about construction, because that is another part of affordable housing, is obviously the housing, the infill development, but also production and construction is a part of that. So we hitting it on both sides, I feel like. So yeah, that's my name. I mean, that's who I am. My company is the Mensch Group, and the Mensch means to honorable and loyal individual. So I named it the Mensch Group, and I plan to hire my friends to work with me and help develop around Omaha.
Great. Thank you.
That was a good presentation on the spot there. Mr. Hug, you're recognized.
Where'd he go? Was he hiding from me now?
I appreciate your commitment in working with Council Member Johnson. Training our youth with giving them a perspective of the trades is important.
Yes.
That being said, just over the hill from this project is an institution called Metropolitan Community College, and they have a wonderful construction lab over there, and plenty of students who are taking high school level classes in that construction program. Have you reached out to Metro?
So part of my conversations with Councilwoman Johnson, she's made that connection for me, and we will be talking to them next week. It's about like how many students. We'll probably take about 10 of them.
That's why she's the best.
Yep.
She's always way ahead of me.
You got it.
All right, thank you.
You got it.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am really excited about this project. It's right on 47th and Curtis. It's on a bus line. It's in the heart of North Omaha. The project will certainly be affordable. Also, again, as Mr. McLean has already promoted and stated, we're going to be utilizing a number of resources to engage that community in a mighty, mighty way. We believe that these projects like this are something that will encourage others, that development is possible in this community. Not only that, but exemplify what true leadership looks like in this community as we target young from deteriorating behaviors such as crime, and be more focused on things that is more productive and more sustainable, and also most important, they would land into a high-paying job. And so we see this as an opportunity. We see this as a right step in the right direction. And again, I fully support this initiative, and I expect to see more like this become more available in my community. Therefore, I motion to approve.
Second. There's a motion and a second to approve. I agree with those remarks, and hopefully we'll see you many more times down here at City Council on future projects.
Thank you.
Roll call.
Melton. Yes. Rowe. Yes. Bagley. Harding. Yes. Hug. Johnson. Yes. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0. Consent agenda. Any member of the city council may cause any item placed on the consent agenda to be removed. Items removed from the consent agenda shall be taken up by the city council immediately following the consent agenda in the order in which they were removed unless otherwise provided by the city council rules of order.
The public hearings on agenda items 18 through 26 were held on October 31st. There's a motion and a second to approve. No further lights. Roll call.
Melton. Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
The public hearing on agenda items 27 through 39 are today. If you would wish to address the city council regarding these items, please come to the microphone, indicate the agenda item number you wish to address, identify yourself by name, address, and who you represent, and if you are a proponent or an opponent. Items 27 through 39.
Sergeant Gordon with Omaha Police Department, 505 South 15th, here on number 35, proponent.
Great.
Here to answer any questions, and we appreciate your consideration.
Thank you. Any other testifiers on these items? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Ms. Johnson, what's your light on?
Yes, but I canceled.
Okay.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Hardy.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to, I know we all got a letter from the head of the fire union in support of number 39. He couldn't be here today in person, but I wanted to just make the comment that not only do I support it, but I think it's something, a good investment in that we will be, providing these physical examinations and cancer screening for firefighters. So if there are no other lights on, I'll just move to approve items 27 through 39.
There's a motion and a second. Roll call.
Melton. Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0. Item 40, a resolution to approve the Paxson and J. Creighton Boulevard Trail renovation and construction project bid dispenser management.
Public hearing and vote on number 40 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Ms. Johnson.
President, motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. No further lights. Roll call.
Melton. Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0. Item 41, an ordinance vacating the north-south alley right-of-way located north of O Street, south of N Street, and west of 26th Street. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
Public hearing on number 41 is today. Proponents, please.
Derek Brawl, Fraser Stryker Law Firm, appearing on behalf of Greater Omaha Packing. My office address is 500 Energy Plaza, 409 South 17th Street. Be happy to answer any questions you guys might have.
Thank you. Any other proponents on 41? See, I'll take opponents first. Any opponents on 41? Seeing none, public hearing's closed. There'll be a vote next week. Okay, next item.
Item 42, an ordinance vacating a portion of the O Street right-of-way located west of the intersection of 26th Street and O Street to the western terminus. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
Public hearing on number 42 is today. Proponents, please.
Derek Brawl from Fraser Stryker Law Firm, appearing on behalf of Greater Omaha Packing. Happy to answer any questions the council might have.
Thank you. Any other proponents? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item 43, an ordinance to approve an agreement renewal with the Nebraska Department of Health and Human Service in the amount of $14,956.86 and to authorize funding from the Nebraska Department of Health for the Police Department.
Public hearing on number 43 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item 44, an ordinance to amend certain portions of special levy ordinance number 10345 for the Benson Business Improvement District 6875.
Public hearing on number 44 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item 45, an ordinance to amend certain portions of special levy ordinance number 10349 for the North 24th Street Business Improvement District 6879.
Public hearing on number 45 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item 46, an ordinance to amend certain portions of special levy ordinance number 10350 for the South Omaha Business Improvement District 6880.
Public hearing on number 46 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item 47, an ordinance to approve a professional services agreement with Kelly Plucker LLC for lobbying services, A's Communication and Opposition.
Public hearing on number 47 is today. Proponents, please.
27 Luis Jimenez, 2709 Dewey Avenue. I support this because it seems to me that your lobbying activities since you lost the city council lobbyist is intolerable. So now you have a new setup for an independent lobbyist outside of the mayor's office and outside of the city council office. So that's mainly why I support this. You guys present the lobbyists' work on an annual basis, and I think that's a good thing. And then on the amount of the contract, which is $122,000, seems to me that that's appropriate since the unicameral has a short session every year. It's only 5 months. But the fact that now Kelly Plucker LLC will be doing your lobbying services is a good thing, and that you're able to reach out to your lobbyist and who is not in the mayor's office. And I think it's a plus for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other proponents? Seeing none, any opponents?
Good afternoon. Andrew Adams, 2301 South 33rd Street. Information on lobbyists is readily discoverable, and I want to make sure that this is given the attention that's required. I want to qualify my statements by saying that I'm totally indifferent to Kelly Plucker LLC. I have seen Sean Kelly in this chamber present himself for his clients. He seems to have a familiar disposition with the council. Excuse me. My concern is both Sean Kelly, Julia Plucker, have both received different appointments from Mayor Stothert to be on boards and committees across Omaha. And I don't question their competency at all, but it does give the perception of a little kickback. I believe Kelly Plucker is grossly overcharging for the services compared to similar lobbyists within the region. $122,000 a year plus a 3% annual increase for 2 lobbyists. I understand Mike Kelly recently passed away. $61,000 per lobbyist. Now to the southwest city of Lincoln, in 2023 expenditures were $67,800 for 5 lobbyists. That's $13,560 per lobbyist per firm. Those firms are Hush Blackwell Strategies and Simon & Company. Now I know Lincoln's about 3/5 the size of Omaha. So I also dug up some information on Denver. Denver, Colorado, 2023 expenditures on lobbyists $120,000 for 10 lobbyists. $12,000 per lobbyist per firm. That includes Brownstein Hyatt et al. And Squire Patton Boggs. I also took a look at Minneapolis. 2023 expenditures on lobbyists, $90,000 for 5 lobbyists, $18,000 per lobbyist per firm. That's the Primacy Strategy Group. The last time Omaha submitted their expenditure list was in 2020. That was Kutak Rock LLP, $30,000 for 1 lobbyist. I just think $61,000 per lobbyist from Keller Plucker LLC is a little bit out of the box. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other opponents that want to speak today? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Ms. Johnson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. This question is for Director Kuzi. We just heard some concerns about a potential to have an overcharge or overpayment in the amount that we would be paying this entity. And can you speak to that? And then the concern about potential conflict of interest.
Matt Kuzi, City of Omaha Law Department. I'll address the conflict of interest accusation first. I don't believe there is any such conflict of interest. I believe Mr. Kelly was nominated by the mayor, confirmed by this council, to be on the Zoning Board of Appeals. Ms. Plucker served on the Charter Convention, again nominated by the mayor and confirmed by this council. I think she still is on the board of Metro Area Transit, but again, that would have been an appointment by the mayor and then also confirmed by the council. So I don't think that there's any evidence of a conflict of interest when the process was filed where the mayor nominated an individual and the council ratified that appointment. With regard to the cost statement that was made, I think a couple of points are worth noting. Number one, Omaha is the largest municipality in the state of Nebraska, and I think the opponent gentleman acknowledged that issues affecting the city of Omaha by way of legislation is probably far greater than issues that would impact Lincoln or Scottsbluff, Grand Island, Kearney, and so on. So there is that concern as well, that the issues that affect the city of Omaha and legislation that touches on the city of Omaha is far greater than issues faced by other municipalities in the state of Nebraska. I don't have the information that the gentleman had about Minneapolis and Denver in front of me in terms of those costs. One thing to consider, though, that it's possible that the lobbyists for Denver and for the city of Minneapolis represent the city of Denver and the city of Minneapolis. I think a lot of times when people talk about Denver or Minneapolis, they're including the surrounding suburbs when they come up with their size. Denver minus the surrounding suburbs and Minneapolis minus its surrounding suburbs are not as big as I think that the implication there was made. But regardless, this is the amount that was negotiated during the during the negotiations that the law department had with Kelly and Plucker, and that's what's presented before the council today, that $122,000 amount.
Thank you. Mr. Adams?
Yeah, I should have cited my sources. So this was all off Open Secrets. They're kind of the go-to place for these types of interactions. And so if, with that being the case, feel free to take a look for yourself. I'm standing up here. I'm not trying to persuade you. I'm just giving you what I've found to be the facts. And I'm just asking that it's given the attention that I think something like this required. I don't think, in the big picture of Omaha, $122,000 isn't that absurd. But other cities, other municipalities, I think they're getting a little more bang for their buck.
So what was your source again?
Open secrets,
Okay.
and I'm not trying to say they're the most credible source, but take a look and see what you come up with.
Okay, thank you. Thanks. Did you have anything else that you wanted to share?
I did. So for Denver, it was the city and county of Denver, Colorado. I don't know if that makes a difference or not.
Thanks. Mr. Kuzi, when we talk about conflict of interest, it encompasses a lot of things. I guess we're concerned about the role as on a committee such as zone of appeals, and then flipping the switch and then being a lobbyist for us. So can you speak to that potential conflict of interest?
Matt Kuzi, City of Omaha Law Department. As board members, regardless of what the board is, those board members are subject to the city's conflict of interest policy that the city has, and it's similar to the one that the council members have. One, if there's a direct conflict where that you would benefit or a member of your family would benefit or be harmed by a decision, you can't vote on something. And when there's situations where there's the appearance of impropriety, that standard also applies. So if Mr. Kelly and his role in the Zoning Board of Appeals feels that he would have to vote on a matter that would touch on that conflict, then he should abstain from voting on something on the Zoning Board of Appeals. But it's no different than the same conflict of interest policy that applies to yourselves as well.
Thank you. And then can you also chime in on our discussion during pre-council where I asked for a one-pager to kind of outline this role that Kelly and Plucker would pay in terms of what I could expect from them, the positive as far as the benefit of us switching from this versus what we had in the past, those kinds of things that we talked about during the pre-council.
Matt Kuzi, City of Omaha Law Department. I did send to all the council the information that you requested during the lunch hour, but I'm happy to share the highlights of what I provided to the council members in that email to all of you. Some of the highlights that I think that I indicated on my message to the council were they were originally retained in 2022 on behalf of the mayor to assist the city with the modern streetcar project and educating and responding to state senators' questions, concerns, issues with that. They were initially retained to assist with that project down in Lincoln. Then in 2023, a contract was done and approved by this council that they would provide augmented lobbying services for the city of Omaha during this most recent legislative session. And some of the examples that I've provided to the council of their work included coordinating and providing communication, giving opinions, making recommendations, highlighting, and providing strategies for how to deal with bills that come before the legislature and amendments to those bills, and keeping not only the mayor's office informed, the council in council's legislative committee informed, various departments informed. They also worked with and coordinated with individuals about testimony, letters, and also private calls on to state senators that the mayor would make or that members of the council would make, advocating on particular issues that were touching the city. They were instrumental in working with the chair of the Urban Affairs Committee and members of the Urban Affairs Committee on a number of TIF bills that the Urban Affairs Committee was considering during this last legislative session. These lobbyists work with providing contact points for them so that they could understand what they were doing and what we're doing here in Omaha. Those are just some examples of the work that they've provided. They met regularly with the council's legislative committee and providing updates and communications as to what was going on. They were in contact with me as well as other directors for the city who have subject matter knowledge about pieces of legislation. And of course, they were also contacting and involved with the mayor's office too.
Thank you. And not all of the council members have are afforded the ability to be on the committee in which this lobbyist would be having regular meetings with. So during our city council meeting, I kind of alluded to how would someone like myself communicate with that lobbyist regarding some initiatives or things that I see or had questions on, or wanting some type of consulting advice, et cetera, on.
Mancusi City of Omaha Law Department, in my communication to you, I did provide their email addresses for both Mr. Kelly and Ms. Plucker as well. And I think that if contacting and consulting with the other council members who are on the legislative committee, you will find that they are very receptive to input, suggestions, and communicating with you on issues before the legislature that are of interest to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Harding.
Thank you, Mr. President. In response to the information that was given to us a few minutes ago, I think that the number of attorneys is completely irrelevant. I mean, it's the number of billable hours, or the number of hours that the lobbyist is working on our behalf. So if Kelly Plucker had 15 lobbyists, then I guess by Mr. Adams' calculations, that would be acceptable. But it's not the number of attorneys, it's the workload. And if, I don't know exactly what their billable hours are, I can probably guess, but you know, it probably ends up being somewhere around 300, 350 hours of work on behalf of the city. I know we have a short session coming up, but that doesn't necessarily, they're only working on our behalf for those 60 days that the legislature's in session. So I just think you have to be, if you're gonna make an argument that this isn't a good agreement because of the number of attorneys, that's a false argument. It's the work that's being done and the billable hours that are being spent working on behalf of the city of Omaha. And I think by demonstration of the success that the city really had in the last legislative session with the assistance of this law firm, I think we're spending money wisely on behalf of the taxpayers and certainly getting our money's worth.
Thank you. Ms. Milton.
Councilman Harding, that's exactly what I was going to explain, is that the number of attorneys that do lobbying in a certain firm would not be any indication of how many of those attorneys would actually work on the city's lobbying. As a law firm, you have many clients, and so you might, out of the 7, you might have 2 of them assigned to different clients. I didn't call anybody back up to ask anything. So what I wanted to say is it's about the amount of work that you're doing. And I think Denver paying $120,000 is right in line. I can also say from experience, last year during our legislative session, Julia and Sean were available. There were times we were speaking at 9:45, maybe even 10 o'clock at night. Sometimes things come up and the bills are coming up and they're coming up so quickly that we were having those communications. Literally, I think they were working 15, 16 hours a week. They were doing the updates for the council members, which they were sending regularly on all of the bills. And by the way, that we pass in our legislative package. So, it would be very difficult. We can't actually have them argue on 2 sides of an issue. That's why the city council puts together a legislative package with the mayor that we will vote on. And we'll be doing that in the next, I think, Mr. President, in the next 6 weeks or so. And so that we give them the direction that we want them to go and what we want them to support us on and lobby for down there. And I can say that last year I was extremely impressed with the work that they did. And so we're actually going into this contract knowing how they perform and what they will do for the city. And I can tell you, as a practicing attorney, I would recommend this because I think we are getting more than a bang for our buck for the amount of hours that they put into this. And it certainly is actually saving the taxpayer money because we're using them instead of a full-time employee with benefits and all of the other money that it would cost to go into a full-time employee, yet we're getting, the specialty of a lobbying law firm. So that for those reasons, I will be supporting the contract.
Thank you, Mr. Bigley.
Thanks, Mr. President. Mr. Kuzi, a couple questions for you, please.
Matt Kuzi, Law Department.
Matt, sorry, I saw your email. We had Board of Eeks, so I didn't get a chance to go look at it. But since I had a little time here, I was looking through, and it has already been touched on. The legislature, especially that last session, and sharing what Councilmember Vice President Melton said, I did have a lot of conversation being on the legislative committee with Mr. Kelly pertaining to the streetcar and various other things that was important in the city. And LB 1024 is, we had a off the mic conversation that morphed into a different bill number, but that was worth $330-something million. Is that correct, to the city of Omaha? Is that correct?
I don't recall the specific amount, but that sounds in the ballpark.
Somewhere in that ballpark, okay. So we're talking about, in fairness to Mr. Adams, I appreciate you coming down today and giving your thoughts on this. In pre-council, we had talked about other municipalities that use lobbying firms for legislative actions and legislative bodies such as the Nebraska legislature. Do you remember, Matt, it was mentioned this morning, I think, there was one other municipality that you guys, when you did your research, still had in-house counsel. Did I hear that correctly this morning?
That's correct. I'm not aware of any other municipality in the state of Nebraska having an in-house lobbyist. I think most of them either hire a law firm similar to this contract that's before you today, or they rely on the League of Municipalities to assist them. You'll recall that in 2019 there was a salary study done for city employees, and this job classification was part of that salary study. And when the HR department reviewed comparable cities outside of Nebraska, but comparable to Omaha, there was only one, and I want to make sure that Ms. Sander, the HR director, gets the credit that she deserves. I said it was Madison, Wisconsin. I was mistaken. And I believe it was St. Paul, Minnesota, was the only one within our comparable cities that still had an in-house city lobbyist with them.
Okay, thanks, Matt. And I know, looking at the amount of the contract that's spelled out here, $122,000. One last question for you, Mr. Kuzi. The position that was budgeted for through the end of 2023 that is now being taken over as proposed by this contract with Kelly and Plucker, what was it? Is this higher than we were paying the in-house attorney to lobby for the city?
No, the full-time employee that Matt Kuzi, Law Department, the full-time employee that you are referring to with salary, benefits, office, mileage, phone, is more than $122,000.
Okay, and this obviously is at the mayor's discretion as the executive of the city to put this on our agenda before us today, correct?
It was her decision to eliminate the position from the 2024 budget and then to budget an appropriate amount to fund a contract such as this.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Kuzi. One other comment I'll make was mentioned LB 1024 that, I'm sorry, maybe my colleagues remember what that morphed into, but that was a dollar value to the city of Omaha in the hundreds of millions of dollars. And the importance, I know, having personal conversations with Ms. Plucker and Mr. Kelly since I've been on the council, and also I've talked to numerous state senators that I know and trust to just get their wisdom and their opinions on how, they deal with lobbyists down there. The 49 senators do. I haven't talked to all of them, but I talk to ones that I trust on what their opinions of the services that Kelly Plucker provides. And it confirmed what I had already felt in my gut about them, that they do a tremendous job for their client, which is the city of Omaha. And again, the hundreds of millions of dollars that goes through that body that comes to the city of Omaha. While I'm not a big contractor doing work that the city should do, in this case, as I've learned on the legislative committee that I sit and working hand in hand with them, I feel very comfortable for the taxpayers of the city of Omaha with the services that Kelly Plucker will provide. And again, that's based on the ARPA dollars that the city got, LB 1024, the issues we had with the streetcar that was down in that venue down in the legislature. You need skilled lobbyists and people that know their way around the legislature. Being the client of the city of Omaha that we are for, that Kelly Plucker will represent us, I do feel comfortable with them providing this service to us, and the taxpayers of the city should feel good about that as well. Thanks, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Hug.
Thanks for coming down. I appreciate your comments. In my opinion, and this is my personal opinion, when it comes to the city of Omaha and the legislature, it's clearly, in my opinion, again, it's an us versus them mentality. It's the city of Omaha versus the rest of the state of Nebraska. Because the rest of the state of Nebraska's agenda in that legislature is entirely different than ours. Omaha's unique in the state. Omaha's unique even compared to Lincoln. We need to have a lobbying firm that has a value added. And I'm totally comfortable with this firm. I believe they bring to the table that value added. The firm also is more than just the two attorneys. They have.
No comments from the audience, okay?
I am assuming they have receptionists, they have clerks, they have legal aides. Well, I will look into that. If that's not the case, I will look into that. But again, I'm comfortable with the value added that they bring to the table, because when we are literally, in my opinion, we're going to battle that legislature, I want somebody experienced, and I want somebody that is well respected and that has the knowledge to be able to maneuver through the halls of that state building. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kuzi, just a couple of follow-up questions on the details of the contract. I know these are things we discussed this morning, but the term proposed is 5 years, and I believe the rationale for that is, which is not unusual when one is hiring a lobbyist, is that you hire them for the legislative cycle. So in Nebraska, that's a 90-day and a 60-day legislative cycle, a 2-year period of time. And so we are going into the short session. So this contract proposes to finish out this legislative term, then also cover the next 2 legislative terms. That's the rationale for the 5 years, right?
Matt Kuzi, City of Omaha Law Department, that's correct. This upcoming session is the second half of a term, and then there would be 2 more after that. So that's the rationale for the 5-year contract.
And then the contract does have provisions by which the contract can be ended early if there was a need to do so, either by a new administration or if the city and the lobbying firm mutually agree to do so. I think it's a 90-day clause, right?
I don't recall the specific time, but you are correct that there are those provisions in the contract that would allow either side to terminate it with sufficient notice. There's also a clause in there about should there be a change in the administration, that would be a reason to terminate it as well.
Okay. And I just have one follow-up on the conflict of interest conversation we were having, which I think is important to discuss when considering hiring a lobbying firm. My question's a little bit different, though, in the respect that I think when any principal is hiring a lobbying firm, they also need to be knowledgeable about who else that firm represents, and if there could be potential conflicts of interest with the city's interest in this case, to be mindful of those things and to be transparent about those things should any conflict of interest arise on issues we are lobbying for or against. Do you want to take a moment just to describe how that would work in this contract?
I will. These are experienced lobbyists, this is a firm that they don't just work during the legislative session, they work all year round, talking with senators and members of the state government on behalf of their clients, which does include the city of Omaha. So these are experienced people, and they've experienced situations. I think they recounted one situation where they had a conflict of interest. So contained within the contract, to be clear, this position, this contracted position, reports to the city attorney and to the law department, not to the mayor, not directly to the council, but to the law department. And should there be a conflict on an issue that is recognized either by the city or by Kelly and Plucker, that's communicated to the parties, that's communicated to the council, that's communicated to the mayor. If it's brought to my attention by them, I will now analyze and determine if there actually is a conflict, because it's also possible that they would be acting out of an abundance of caution and reporting things to me that are actually not conflicts. But I would report those decisions to the council and to the mayor so that they're aware of what was reported to me and what my decision was. But in those situations, which most likely are unlikely situations, where there would be a conflict, where there would be some sort of issue between someone that they represent besides us, then the decision would be made to hire someone else for that particular issue. If it was deemed necessary, that we hire someone else to advocate on our behalf on that issue, and that would come at a reduced rate to us.
And then
From Kelly and Plucker, excuse me.
And they would otherwise recuse themselves in that example.
Excuse me?
And they would otherwise recuse themselves in that example, right?
From representing one or the other?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep, okay.
And that's why one or the other, depending on where it falls, would have to have another outside lobbyist.
Okay, thank you. I think that is an important provision to have in there, and just wanted to make the terms of the contract clear as well. If there are no further lights on this item, Madam Clerk.
Non-action items 48 through 83, do not require public hearing or city council consideration at this meeting, but will be placed on a future agenda for public hearing and/or vote. The reason for non-action is noted after the item on the agenda, as well as the date the item is expected to appear on agenda for consideration.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion and a second. Roll call.
Melton.
Yeah.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0. Meeting is adjourned at 2:57.